couple days, amongst other projects. Take it out of here and show it to you. If you're interested to see this finished. So we're getting down to the fine science here. I'm just working on the handles. This guard makes this really hard to work on. It takes some pretty specialized tools to get in here, into this. And so it requires a lot of handwork. Helps to have a good tool. Here's a little vise that I made up specifically for doing knives. I'm just buffing off this wood right now. This is black walnut handles on this. And this is just a piece of old coverall. Essentially it's denim. And it's pretty dirty because it's been laying around this shop. So I'm kind of using it as a buffer. Now that I've got this sanded where I want it. Oh, it's probably sanded down to 180 grit. I find that it doesn't do much good to take it down less than about 120 or 180 grit because you just clog up your sandpaper. And we're going to put a couple of clear coats on this anyway. And this knife is going to get used. So the first thing that's going to go out is it's going to go get banged and marred up. So you have to weigh the amount of work with the amount of money you're going to get for the knife. I'll show you the difference between one side and the other. So I don't know how the light is in here. So there's the buffed side. There's the unbuffed side. So you can see that there's quite a bit of difference. So the jaws on the inside of this vise have, there's nylon jaws that I've got in here that are, there's some pieces of nylon. So I can put that knife in there. I don't have to worry about the finish on the knife getting marred up. But this is a pretty good tool if you're doing a lot of knife making. One of these little knife vices is pretty handy. Well, I'm just going to give this a little bit of a buff. All the way along there. And I'm going to try to go kind of with the grain a little bit if I can. That gives it that little extra But like I said, this is going to be like a $250 knife. I'm $70 or $80 into the sheath. So we're not going to spend days and days on this deal. So we haven't finished the blade yet. We're just working on the handle, but turned out fairly good. I've got some file work in there that I did, and that'll pop after I get to sanding on that a little. So we're going to kind of do this in chapters. So I've got several different tools that I use. Well, I'm glad you like it, but Mary B, you can go watch somebody else's channel. You don't have to be in here trolling on me. Troll me again and I'll block you. It's that simple. So I'm a big proponent of taking the tool to the work instead of taking the work to the tool, especially when you're dealing with knives and they got edges on them and there's lots of things to get hung up on in a tool, and nothing like getting killed with a knife that's coming out of the buffer over there at 3,000 RPM. So this is one of my favorite tools to use. I almost built a clay Spencer tire hammer. What I don't like about the clay Spencer is the tire and the whole action is right about face high, and they're fairly unstable. So you pretty much have to bolt them down. I'll show you the one I built here. Just a second. Stand by. So this is a little tire hammer that I built, and I used it so much that I didn't put any bushings in it. This is kind of a proof of concept. I used it so much that all the linkage is loose. So we need to go if I ever get the time, I'm going to go back and rebuild it. But essentially, it works a lot the same way as a Spencer tire, only the tire is down here and the motor is here instead of in the back. So you stand on this, and that pushes up against the tire, which rolls this actuator around and drives the tool. This is a lighter hammer. This is about probably a 25-pound or a 30-pound hammer. Like I said, we're going to go back and rebuild it, and we might change it. I wanted to get the tire in here because I wanted to compact up the machine a little bit. But what we might end up doing is making a Appalachian style hammer where we put a longer spring in, put a rocker arm right here, and then run the spring on the way back, and then mount the linkage in the back. But I was looking for something that would fit in this spot, so I made something up. This is a 110 DC motor out of a treadmill. It's got a rheostat on it. So, yeah, so tire hammers. Spencer tire hammers work fine if you've got a place to put them. They require quite a bit of maintenance. They run kind of like a little Giant. I've got a KA75 right here. That's a KA75 power hammer. Runs on compressed air that I have had for 20 years. And it works pretty good. So you think my blade is bent, huh? Well, let's see. Let's see how straight it is. Looks pretty straight to me. I might have just a little, maybe just a tiny, tiny bit of bow in it, but it's fairly straight. So, yeah. All right, so back to what I was talking about. I like taking the tool to the work. So these little die grinder tools work really, really well. So these little Scotch Brights, I find that these work a lot better than sandpaper in most cases. This is a hard knife to do because there's so many little places that are hard to get to. And of course, I use 3 coarseness. So this whole knife has been gone over with 80 grit flap wheel. And then I'll use the Scotch-Brites. We'll start with this one, and I'll just show you how that works. Now, you're going to have to put up with the compressor running at some point. But you got to have a good vise to do this, though. That's part of the deal here. So there you can kind of see. Yeah, the treadmill motor works really good. It's about a 1.25 horsepower motor. And with the rheostat, you can control the speed. So I think it works a lot better than trying to use the friction on a tire. Just gives you another option. So hello. So you can see that that works fairly well. I know that my lighting isn't real great in here, but that sure takes a lot of the sanding marks out. But there are other things I use. I'll show you another tool. I'm a little out of. These are little flap wheels that you can get, and they have a 1/4 inch stem on them, so they'll fit in a die grinder. The good thing about mounting it in a drill is that it's slow, and so you're not taking too much material off. So that works. Those work fairly good, but they're a little pricey to buy. So I made hundreds and hundreds of knives with sandpaper and elbow grease. You're going to go through a lot of sandpaper. I never spend money on the expensive sandpaper. I just buy the cheap sandpaper. So I just buy this cheap sandpaper like this, whatever, Harbor Freight or whatever. And when you're bending it around, it's going to break and split apart. So I just back it with some duct tape, and that works really, really well. You get a lot more life out of your sandpaper when you do that. But I've pretty much done that with this one already. This is a rasp knife. So you're never going to get it really, really nice because the texture is always going to be messing with your finish. But you can see that you can get them, and we're not done there. I'm going to go over that one more time with a finer Scotch-Brite. Here's the great thing about this vise. See, I've already gone in here with that little flap wheel on that die grinder and got in here. a lot of this. I'm sure somebody has done knives like this, but see, this is a forged knife, so that's all one piece. I split that, and then I folded that around, and then I welded it back together right here. Now you can split it and forge that out, but and not weld that, but it adds a lot of work. And trying to get everything even, you'll lose a lot of the evenness that you have in the guard. I've done 3 or 4 of this style. The good thing about doing these is they're such quick change. I'm going to try to keep that out of the wood because it'll burn it. It spins so fast that it burnishes the wood so hard that it'll actually discolor that hardwood. Like right there, you can see just that little bit. It'll blacken that handle up. Okay, so now you'll be able to see the difference. Now you could go hog crazy on that. But like I said, I'm doing a $250 knife with the sheath. So if you want machinist made knives, there's plenty of guys out there that do better than I do. Okay, now we'll work on finishing that blade up. Let me go get the sheath so you can see what it looks like. So here's the sheaths that my friend makes for me. Joe Gomez here in Cody. Well, that's going to look fairly nice in there when I get it done. Thanks for the likes. I appreciate that. Well, here's a close-up of the vise, right? So you can actually mount this on like a bench. Good thing about this is you can put this in the vise any way you want. So you can get it to an appropriate height. And I've made several of these. I've made some for friends. But you can see the rub on the inside of, or the nylon on the inside of the jaws. See there, you can see it. That's that's the nylon pad out of a horseshoe, and that just keeps you from marring up your blade. Now we're working on the blade though, and so now we got to figure out a way to hold this knife in here without marring up all the finish that we've done. We don't have to hold it very hard. We're not going to be doing heavy filing or anything. Yeah, that's an old saw. You could also clamp that with a clamp. Something like that. Move that a little closer so you can see. So you can see all the file marks in there. I might start with the heaviest grit. Now I don't know what the grit is. You got to be a little careful. You got to be aware of the way that it's spinning so you don't hook the edge of the blade and tear this off. I've also got this turned way, way down. I've got it down to about 60 pounds of pressure, so it's only spinning about half the speed that it would at 90 pounds. So. Well, already looking better. Now we'll go with a medium grit one. The reds are the medium grit. Now you can order, I'm sure you can order all this stuff on Amazon. And now you're going to look for file marks. File marks or sanding marks. something that's different than the squirrels. See how I can turn that down? It doesn't have to, I can go, so I can go lightly, or I can go fast. And you learn how to hold it. You hold it in different ways, you get a different squirrel pattern. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, this rasp pattern hides all. You don't have to put quite such a finish on, because every little cut mark or every little grind mark only incorporates one of the teeth. All right, that's pretty much that side done. My goal when I do these knives is to do what they call forge to finish. So I'm going to get the knife when I'm forging one of these knives. I'm going to get this knife just as close to the finished dimension as I can. Before I go to grinding on them. Okay, so there's the finished side. There's the side that's not. So, but old socks are your friends in this game. They work pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to plug this phone in so it doesn't die on me. Okay, now we'll do this other side very carefully so I don't knock the handles off of this. If I really wanted to, I could get a vice grip, a safe vice grip, and I could clamp onto that, and then I should just clamp that in the vice if I wanted to, but for the sake of demonstrating, we'll just do it this way. Like I said, you're not really pushing hard with this. You're not really cutting much with this. I think it will. I know I wouldn't want to get stabbed by it, especially after I get that last little sharpening on it. So I know I'm finished right up to about here. You can see those cut marks on the edge of that blade. That's from a 60 grit belt sander. So they come with sanding discs that are 80 grit. Let's see if that takes it out. Yes, it does. You can see some of my hammer marks in there. A couple of little hammer marks in there. And I'm going to leave them because it's a hand-forged knife. We're going to give that compressor a minute to charge back up. Any questions, anybody? These die grinders, they're about $100. I think these are about $4 or $5, or they might even be $6 a piece now. So they aren't cheap. But if you do all your prep work and don't try to do all the work with these, they last a long time. The big thing is they wear down from the edges and the insides stay good. So you learn how to use the tools. I'm going to get something great. Hang on. I don't know John Campbell. Well, we're waiting. I'll show you a knife that's actually finished, or fairly close to finished. So, again, one of Joel's sheaths. Gosh, I love those copper rivets that he uses. Copper snaps. So there's a couple of ways to do these guards. You can taper the tang enough that when you cut this out, you can slide that guard up over that. But I find I don't like the shape of the handles after you do that. They tend to get too tapered, and I don't like that. I like to have a little meat on the back of my knife. So what I do is I forge my guards, and then I split them. So the guard slides on there like that. And then, you can see right there, if I get the light just right, you can see there's 2 brass rivets. Now, I generally don't do that many pins on these knives. I don't know, I went pin crazy on these. So I got to buff this one out still. I don't know that you'll be able to see it in the camera, but it is a piece of Damascus. And I ordered this Damascus from a guy that specializes making Damascus down in Alabama. So I have made Damascus in the past, but for the amount of money that I'm getting out of these knives, I find it isn't worth messing with like this. I'm better off just buying Damascus from somebody who that's all they do. So That's a pretty nice knife. I'm pretty satisfied with that. My handles fit fairly well. I was experimenting with some new glue, and boy, does it set up fast. But at making thousands of knives, here's what I can tell you. The sheath will sell the knife. And that's why I spend the money and have Joel do really nice sheaths, because it's the part of the knife that 99% of the people are going to see. So either build good sheaths or get somebody to build a good sheath. And I'll show you a really fancy one here that I did for a guy here this last week. I showed this on a live the other day, but Joel kind of went all out on this devil. Brass ring hangers with that Nordic or very Nordic. God, he did a good job on that carving. And then this is just straight elk horn. I did it in a real traditional style. The thing about elk horn is it's really hard to find a big one where you can get thin slabs. And so it's pretty chunky. But for this kind of a knife, I think that's probably what they used, was a big chunky handle. And then you can see the ladder Damascus in it. Generally, I don't spend the time that I spend in this knife on one of these. This was a special custom deal I did. I don't like doing custom work. I don't like doing stock removal knives. I'm a forge guy and I like to forge my knives, and you can't, once this Damascus is made up, you can't really forge it. So you have to do stock removal. Yeah. I know that guy's name and I can't think of it now. Oh, doggone it. I was just watching something on YouTube about him. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with that, and I think the guy who ordered it's going to be pretty happy. And Joel even managed to find look at that. He found the Globe and Anchor. He's had a Globe and Anchor stamp, and he stamped on the back of it. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. This is what we were working on the live stream yesterday. I love working with a rasp. I love working with the rasp. So this is a forged welded. Could have been, I can't remember. So that's kind of a traditional native style one. They were small. A lot of people don't realize we're used to having great big tomahawk heads, but traditionally, I think they were fairly small like this, most of them. The good thing about a tomahawk is now you can pack it a lot easier. But here's one I did more. Sometimes I get this weird Viking thing going on. There's my Viking one. So what makes this one different is this bit is actually forge welded in here. So right here, that is 3 layers of steel all welded together. So I got to order some more handle material though. I'm out of these tomahawk blanks, so I've only got one handle for 2 tomahawks. So I forgot it. I hadn't ordered any of them, and I don't do a lot of these in the summertime. This is kind of a wintertime thing that I do. But yeah, so that's more my speed. Here's a couple that I'm working on. So yeah. All right. So where are we at with this one? We're at medium grit. Set my cigar over there for right now. Woohoo! Man, I like that. That's coming out nice. I'm gonna have to go over to Powell Industrial and get some more of these. I think they use these a lot in the automotive industry. I think is where this comes from. I think that's traditionally what they use probably for welding fenders and doing all that kind of stuff. But doggone, I use them for bits and spurs. They work great for bits and spurs. Like imagine like a snaffle bit. Watch, now I'll go get one. Can you imagine trying to take this snaffle bit to a belt sander? I mean, it's just like it's like trying to polish a piece of chain. So you have to be able to clamp it and get the tool into it because trying to take this to a stationary sander and work on something like this, good luck. And there's one of my little dragon dogs I do. John C. Campbell in Brasstown, North Carolina. And then here's an example of some inlay. A little copper inlay that I do. I have done it on knives, but it ain't easy. What I more do is I do magumagame, silver and copper. So, okay, let's finish this sucker up today, right now. Now from here, if I really want to go extra uber over the top, I can take it over to the buffing wheel. But I generally don't do that. I don't generally mess with buffing them. Then you got to clean them because you get the buffing compound down in the teeth of the rasp. It's a pain in the butt. So it'll get its final. So sock. It's a great way to do that. So there's pretty much our finished knife. So now I have done this several different ways for the finish on these. Traditionally, they would have used linseed oil and turpentine on these, but and you could see I probably could have gone in here and worked on this inside of this a little bit more, but I am at some point I am done. You can spend when you're doing something to sell, the extra hour or two that you put in something like this is the difference between you making $100 and losing $50. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to call it good, and if you like it, great, and if you don't, go find one from somebody else. So what I'm going to do is I've got the heat on in this shop, so it's fairly warm. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but this I get the expensive stuff. This is 3M, but it has a life expectancy. Um, and what happens is it starts sticking together so bad that it won't come apart. Yep. There's a ton of knife makers out there that build absolutely gorgeous, beautiful knives. 25 years ago, when I started making a lot of knives, I learned some valuable lessons about that. And here's the thing that I know. So most people that have knives, people that want a perfect knife, are such a rare. The person that can look at two knives and tell the difference between a $200 knife and a $500 knife are very rare. There's not that group of people is very small. And so my whole goal is to make a knife that somebody goes out and uses and loses it, and comes back and buys another one. So I don't want to sell a. There's a man here in Cody, Wyoming. I'm in Cody, Wyoming. There's a man by the name of Feely here in Cody, and that guy is a master knife maker. He does beautiful silver wire work. He inlays wire and gold wire in the handles. He does absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous work. But you're not going to get into one of his knives for less than about $3,500. That's like the base. That's base. That's the base price of one of his knives, and they're worth it. They're beautiful. But I'm a blacksmith. I'm a working blacksmith. Uh, I consider myself more of a folk artist, and so my art is more of a folk style. And with knives being a tool, I want mine to get used. So I don't know. I've made some pretty fancy knives, but so I'm doing something different. I'm doing my own thing. And look, I have no finished knife to show you. The reason, yeah, the reason that these knives, oh, damn it. See what I did there? I dropped that. Look what happened. Oh, me screwing around doing my live streams. Damn it. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Well, me screwing around doing these damn live streams. Trying to do this here where I don't have a table. Well, damn it. The good thing is, I knew that that was a weak spot in that handle, but it must have landed just right. On a good note, well, now you get to see if now you get to watch me fix the screw up. Ah, that's another reason that I can't spend 15 hours on these knives, because in this shop, dang it. Ah, it'll be all right. It'll be all right, NJ. Take a breath. No mistakes. Happy accidents. Oh, shit. Well, let's start over. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. That's kind of a weak spot back there on the back of that anyway. I was trying to get a real dramatic in there, and I knew that that was probably going to happen. I was just hoping it was going to happen after I sent it home with somebody. These are a handy tool. These little mini hacksaws like this for doing stuff. Boy, this is one of those tools that everybody ought to have in their shop. You can get those little ones into places that you can't get a big one. Okay. All right. Oh, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. All right. All right, so we're just going to take a little piece of a little piece of 1/8 inch. I would be dangerous if I had a woman in here in the shop with me. I'd be breaking stuff all the time, distracted, or a dog. I'd be distracted. I'd be doing this shit all the time. Um, all right, so now you get to see. Anyway, you guys get to see what happens when you screw up. I'm going to happen there, not out in the middle of the. See, I've got a rubber pad back here that you guys can't see that I generally stand on. And I do a lot of the work over that pad, a rubber floor pad. And so that keeps a lot of this kind of stuff from happening. Drop that stuff, but that's pretty delicate in there. Thoroughly delicate. This is springy. This stuff is springy, so I can get a hold of it and I can stretch that out. I'm going to have to get on the inside of that and reshape the inside of that too. Yeah, that'll be fine. It's not going to affect the knife, the way the knife handles it all. But I am going to have to remove a bunch of material off of the inside of this. Here. Which might not be a bad thing. Let me find a piece of round stock. That's what I need, another piece of. That'll probably work. So that's just a little piece of 3/8 round stock. I've got several back there. Maybe it'll turn out better. I don't know. I was doing a live the other day, and the guy that ordered the original knife, the Sachs knife, he was interested in maybe getting a couple of these other ones. So I would love to put a couple of these on the Etsy store, but I don't know that they're going to make it there. I told him I'd hold them for him until next month when he comes back to town. And just like that, like if I'd had to replace the whole handle in there, that would have been a real catastrophe. But I think we saved it. Find me a fresh piece there. Yeah, blacksmithing is the duality of blacksmithing. Sometimes you're hitting stuff with a hammer big enough that you can barely lift it, and on the very next moment, you're setting rivets like a watchmaker. So it's the duality of being a blacksmith. It's sort of hilarious. See if we can blend this in a little bit. Yeah, it's going to work out all right, I think. I'm going to have to get in there and buff that back out, or I scratch that up. I think that's going to work. I'll get an opinion from you guys in a minute. Let me get this finished up a little bit, and then I'll show you. Let me get some other sandpaper here. I don't need 220 grit. This will work 150. So what we're going to do is take a little piece of this tape. This is a great trick, you guys. This works for woodworking. This works for cleaning contacts on electrical stuff. Great thing to know how to do. So get some really good duct tape. So now that cheap 25 cents a sheet Harbor Freight duct sandpaper. So even when I use this, like in the sander, when I use it in my orbital sander and stuff, I'll back that first. And boy, it sure makes that paper last a lot longer. You can really get down in there and push on that now. Get in there and relieve them both corners up. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to teach you guys all kinds of really good stuff, like this. See this? I've got 5 vices in this shop. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, or 6. 4 of them are mounted solid, but here I am using this wobble gun for the live stream. Because I'm trying to grow my ridiculously silly YouTube channel. It's pretty silly. Go watch some of the videos, you'll see it's pretty silly. Oh, that's a little better. That ain't bad. Get it out of there and see what it looks like. Heck, you can't even tell. Looks like I made it that way. Like I made it that way. All right, so let's find my buffer. There we go. All right. Let's slowly get somewhere. You're never going to mistake one of my knives for a machine-made knife, I can tell you that. Looks all right. I didn't screw it up too bad. Buff that on. All right. In the words of my very cowboy father, close enough for the girls I go out with. I'm somebody's dad, but I don't probably think I'm yours. I was pretty careful. As far as I know, I only got one. He's a grown-ass man. So I'm closer to having grandkids than having kids nowadays. Okay. Okay. Whew. Almost gave myself a heart attack. Let's not do that again, shall we? All right. So I got that all taped up. Take the knife out of the, hang on to it so I don't freaking drop it. Over there. Throw that away. Put this in here. Use my magic sock. Doubled up sock. Okay. Now what did I do with the rest of the tape? So yeah, you can get lots of use out of that. Yeah. Well, my fuzzy fleece-lined winter jeans. Thanks, I appreciate that. You should have seen my ass when I was riding horses every day for a living. It was much more impressive then. Now it's just old and white. A little saggy. Because I'm grandpa aged. But I'll take the compliment. Okay, so where were we? All right, we were talking about finishes and what you can finish this with. So you can finish this with linseed oil. Well, we'll leave Jesus to the saving. I don't worry too much about it. I just try to live like Jesus. Remove all the sapwood. Yeah, there's no sapwood. So what I'm using here is I'm going to use an enamel. And part of the reason I use the enamel uh, is because it'll get down in there and it'll keep the water. If it happens to get wet, it'll keep the water out from between the slabs and the knife. And that's the killer. That's the killer of these slab-sided knives like this, is moisture getting in between. Because what everybody does is they'll take this knife and they'll take it out in the field and it'll get some moisture on it, snow or something, and then they'll throw it up on the dash of their truck or whatever in the window. And that moisture gets inside there and it just degrades the whole inside of that. And that's what fails the knife handles. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it several coats of this. And I'm going to show you how you don't have to sand in between coats. But watch how this changes that knife. And now you see the walnut come out. Okay. It's fairly cool in the shop. I keep the shop about 45 degrees. I swung a big loop when I was a young man. So when you spray that on, you know, it gets bubbles. It'll bubble. Just it's the nature of the stuff. So I'm going to hold that back a little bit. So I'm assuming that the air in that tank is the same temperature as the air in the shop because it's sitting over there. So it's 45 degrees or something like that. And that takes the tacky out of it. Thanks, I appreciate the subscriptions, I do. This is not Cody from Grinder. That's hilarious. That's funny. No, it's not Cody from Grinder. Oh, oh my God, I've been trolled a lot, but that's a good one. I'll do at least 3 coats. So I'll do 3 or 4 here. Appreciate you subscribing, though. That's great. And thanks for all the likes, everybody. I really appreciate that. So you don't want to get that too close or you'll just blow all of your finish off. But I've done these knives and I've put 1 layer on it, and then I've walked away and I've come back and I've had great big bubbles. And then you got to go in there with some super fine, either a Scotch-Brite or something, and go in there and knock the damn bubbles down. God, I hate that. Because a lot of times I'm not working on 1 knife at a time. I'm working on 6 or 8 knives at a time, and I've got them all to the same stage where I'm here. And like, you don't want to take the mistake of taking that knife when you put a coat of that on there and then sitting in front of that forced air heater, because that'll make that bubble bad. I think we're going to do 1 more coat. And I might do more later. Yeah. Just running that spray can is a art in itself. You got to learn how to do it. Of course, when you do this, you got to make sure you got everything around blown off so you don't blow the crap from the top of the vise up onto your work. I'm like a kid. We got to take the tape off so we can see what it looks like. I'll try not to touch it. Now be careful not to scratch it. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. Thanks for the likes. I appreciate it. Little file work in there. Got a little file work in there. And I run it back past the handles. So yeah, I don't ever take mine down to that. Well, that's as close as it's going to be. If you don't like it, go buy somebody else's knife. Because that's how this one's going out of here. Now, I'm not going to touch that son of a gun to that handle because I know it's still very wet. In fact, I'll probably retape it and put another layer or two on there because I can still see my seams are still a little, in a couple of places, they're still a little showing through. But I do love that black walnut. It sure is pretty. So there we go, everybody. If you like the content, you ought to probably subscribe. These big knives like this, I leave them fairly soft. I don't get them real hard. The thing about these rasps is especially these new rasps like this, they don't use the same quality of steel as the old ones used to, and so they don't harden up like the old knives did, or the old rasps that I used to did back in the old days. So, all right, let's see what it looks like in the sheath, shall we? Not bad. Not bad. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. You know, you can see a lot of guys make a lot nicer knives on YouTube, but I'm a blacksmith. I'm not a master knife maker. Even though I make lots and lots of knives and knife shaped objects, and I'll show you here in a minute some of the knives that I make and I'm working on. If you want to see some of the other stuff, you can just subscribe, go to Instagram. I've got a whole page of different knives that I've made on. But this is fairly standard for what I put out. Most of my knives, if they leave this shop, because a lot like these will never leave. This knife will never leave. It's probably already sold. But if they do leave, they go down to the art league, and they're going to get bought by tourists that come to Cody, because they got my stamp on it and they got the Made in Cody on there. So somebody's buying this for a gift for somebody who's taking care of their dogs at home or something. So, but I guarantee you, my knives have a. If you didn't abuse it and you're not satisfied with it, you can bring it back and I'll either reharden it, regrind it, whatever needs to be done. But that's just, in all the years that I've done this, I've maybe gotten 3 knives back out of thousands of knives, because most of the knives I do aren't of the quality that you're going to take the time to send them back. I have rehandled some knives from guys using them, breaking the handles out of them, and then want me to rehandle them, like especially, they go to hammering on an elk or something. Because most of the knives I make are using knives. Yeah. All right, well, I'll show you some of my other knives and some of the other stuff that I do. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to set it someplace where that handle can dry the rest of the way. Okay. I do a lot of stuff for the tourists. I mean, that's a big part of my business. So when I say do a couple of 100 knives a year, I probably do 100 real knives and then 100 knife shaped objects. So I can do these in the power hammer. I have the ability to get these roughed in. This is roughed in, no edge on it yet or anything. So I can do these in the power hammer, but the best way I found to do these is I have a big son who's 6'3" and weighs 230 pounds. And I bring him into the shop and I hand him this 10-pounder, and we just draw out a whole bunch. I'll just put 10 of them in the forge at the time, and then we'll just in a couple of hours, we'll just do 10 of these. Then from here, because it's almost forged to finish, I don't even use the belt sander for only the final sharpening on these. I'll use a grinder, a 4.5-inch grinder. I'll cut that all in with the 4.5-inch grinder and then take it to the sander. I will not breathe until you give me a shout out, Crazy Mind. Okay, there you go. Crazy Mind, there's a shout out. Here's a few of the others that I do. And you can see that some of these are finished and some of them are in the raw with the horse faces. Kind of the same thing with those. I have a set of knife forging dies that go in the power hammer. And so that allows me, once I get them, the rough shapes in, I can really knock these out. If you want to see how long it took me to do that yesterday, to do this little tool yesterday, this little tomahawk head that I forged in that forge right back there. And then I was experimenting with a little brazing rod. I wanted to see if, just to help hold that weld shut in there, if I couldn't just take a little piece of brazing rod and set it in there and then set it in the forge. And it kind of worked, but it was kind of an experiment. And I guess if you've been on here for a while, you've seen this one. This is the Viking style. So here's the little Native American 18th century one, and here's the Viking style one. Yeah, but I do all kinds of stuff. Oh, here, did I show these? Can't remember if I showed these or not. So these are more of that rasp. I like using the rasp. I make a lot of knives out of rasp. I make a lot of knives out of truck spring. But there's kind of a cool. There's another one. These are just roughed in. I haven't finished them up yet. You kind of see that's how close I can get it in the forging, right? I did cut it off. I did take it to the grinder and cut the ragged edge off of the end of it with the grinder. But that's how they come out of the forge. So I can get them fairly close. You mean like that? This is one I forged up here last winter. I've got 3 or 4 over there on the wall that I've done. I don't do much bigger than about a 3-pounder is all I'm going to do because I don't have it in me to do a 5 or a 5-pound axe. I don't. I'm 53 years old. I got nothing to prove to anybody. And that's a drifted eye. That's not a forge welded eye. That's all drifted out of one piece. That's truck spring. That's a piece of semi truck spring, and it is a booger to forge. But it works good. I cut my Christmas tree down with it this year. For me, that's a nice size to carry. I'll show you some of the other stuff I do, some of the other blade stuff. Stand by. Stand by. I'll go get some off the wall. Let me go get a couple of pieces off the wall. Here's a war hammer that I made out of a piece of iron. That's actually out of a great big piece of 200-year-old rebar out of a bridge. Okay, so there's one. Here's a little one that I helped my son forge a while back. Little bearded style axe. Pretty nice, and he actually made the handle for this one. Here's a French pattern with a Tomahawk style eye in it, a friction fit eye that I made. And this is welded, that eye is welded in. That's a welded. And so this is mild steel, and this is that truck spring. I haven't had a chance to use it yet to see how it cuts, but it's got straight handle on it because the original ones, they did have straight handles. Like that. And then this is what they call a shepherd's axe. They used them a lot in France and northern Spain and the Basques. So it has a point, a forged point on this end for hiking. And then it has a rubber and a little blade. And it's just the right size for hiking. I need to make a little leather sheath for it, a little scabbard for it, but it works really good. That is also truck spring, and then this was a lawnmower blade, so that's fairly good steel too. So, but that's how you do. That's how you would do sockets, like for spears. That's how you do a spear socket for spears. And I do have a spear around just someplace. And then here's my zombie spear that I made. Same thing. I like using for this kind of stuff where you want it to be tough. I use a lot of lawnmower blade because it's fairly tough. It holds a fairly good edge, but it's also fairly tough. So that's a zombie spear that I did up a while back. So. I find that stress makes you look old. And so if you can mitigate the stress out of your life, that helps. That helps. All right, well, I'm going to clean some of this stuff up, and then I am going to do some forging. Um, I got to finish a couple of wall hooks. I've got a bunch of pickup stuff that I got to do this evening before tomorrow. So if you're not just into the knives, I am going to do some forging here in a minute, but it's going to take me a little bit to clean up my mess around here. So, oh, I do have kind of some cool things to show you. Look at this silly tool that showed up in my shop the other day. What the hell is this? Is that a hammer with two pry bars on it? What the heck is this? It's patent September 29th, 1908. Is that some kind of specialty tool for opening crates? Is this some tool that they used back in the day for apple crates and stuff? I'm betting that that's what that is. Some kind of a special tool for opening wooden crates. I don't know. I haven't looked it up yet, but it's pretty cool. I'm going to do a couple of short videos on it to put on the channel. Oh, the shepherd's axe. Yeah, you'd make some kind of pockets to go over that so you wouldn't be cutting yourself as you were using it for a hiking stick. But see, it's hiking stick. It's hiking stick high. But for cleaning out trail, you've got it's like a little miniature Pulaski. So for cleaning out trail and then chopping, chopping branches. I think that's what they were used for. I think they were fairly. I think they used them a lot, like in the Basques, in the Pyrenees, used them. It's very close to old style hiking sticks that would have something like this on one end and then a hooked point on this end. But this is probably tool's a little more useful just because it's got the blade for cutting wood. So, and this was just to keep you from, sticking in the ground, so you could stick it in the ground while you were walking. As you can see, I'm fairly prolific. I do a lot of work in here. I've got a bunch of orders as we're sitting here. I got that dinging that you heard. That was the Etsy store going off. So I've got quite a bit of I've got a few orders since you guys came in. That's since I started the live. But I do all kinds of stuff. Like these are arrowheads. Botkin. That's a Botkin point arrowhead. That one is a 250-pound hay button. It has been refinished, and then I've only got 3 in the shop right now. I've got 2 up at a buddy's house. I've got another little 100-pound hay button, and then I've got this big bridge anvil sitting over here. So I'm going to start up this forge and let everything get hot. Stand by. I might as well let that material start heating up. Do you see my little dog face that I did? Yeah, as far I think Hay Budden probably. I think probably they probably made the best anvils in America. Hay Budden did something like 180,000 anvils from 1885 or something like that through 1928 is when the foundry in Brooklyn, New York burnt down for the last time. I think I'm not. I think I'm pretty certain that they did like 180,000 anvils. They did a lot of anvils. And I've owned 50 anvils, and you see the ones I have. I have two Hay Buddens in my shop, so that kind of tells you how I feel about it. Well, that'll kind of warm it up in here pretty good. The Hay Budden foundry burnt down at least twice. By 1925, the foundry was pretty well done. Um, there wasn't much use for anvils, after World War One. That technology kind of went away, and I think they had quite a bit of backstock. So I've got a book all about anvils made in America. So thanks for the likes, everybody. Thanks for the subscriptions. I really appreciate it. It helps the channel get seen. I don't really get paid much. I don't get paid next to nothing for the live streams. It's only my video content that really pays anything. And so, of course, some subscriptions kind of helps you guys see that content. And, I'm not making much, but if I can make enough to pay for the internet, that would be good. I've had some Peter Wrights. Probably my second favorite anvil that I ever had. I had a couple of Trentons that I really, really liked. If I was going to buy a new anvil, I would probably get one of those 128-pound JHM anvils out of Texas. They're a pretty good anvil. So, all right. Well, I got to run around to the other side of the shop. I'll be back in a second. We're going to let that heat up a little bit here. I'll set you over there so you can watch that material get hot. I generally don't keep this car in this shop, but it's going to get down to, they're expecting 15 below zero tonight. So I brought the car in. So I got something, in case I need to go someplace, I got something that'll start. That's the great thing about having a nice shop. It's expensive, but sometimes it's worth it. All right. Set this up so you guys can see what we're doing here. Something like that. Here's a little bracelet I did a while back. Horse face. I want to do these out of some silver, but doggone, that silver is so expensive. I would love to forge some of these out of silver like this. And then inlay a piece of copper in them. This was kind of proof of concept out of some steel. I do quite a bit of jewelry. And spurs and bits. But mostly hat racks and all kinds of art stuff. I will never run out of stuff to build. This is 36 years I've been doing this profession. And I haven't even scratched the surface of the stuff I want to build. I really want to make a wind-powered well, you got a pretty good price on it. I've seen some of those hay buttons go for $10 a pound. We're waiting for some material to heat up in that forge right over there, and then we're going to start forging some steel. Well, you got to let it get hot. Blacksmithing is sort of a hurry up and wait deal. Oh, a wind-powered power hammer. So there are places in the Midwest that have windmills, and the windmills, instead of pumping water like a normal windmill would, they power a compressor head, and the compressor head just pumps air to aerate ponds. Well, instead of aerating a pond, I want to build a windmill with a compressor head on it and get an old propane tank, a big propane tank, so I can compress 500,000 gallons of air and run my power hammer off. we're going to rebuild. We have redesigned this power hammer that I built, and we are going to at some point, my buddy Jeff and I, who is a pipe fitter, we're going to rebuild it because I wore this one out. I used it so much I wore it out. So. So the last couple of days, been doing quite a bit of stuff. Surplus air tank from the military. I'm thinking something big, like an old 1,000-gallon. Once those propane tanks get to a certain age, they can't use them anymore, and so you can buy them for scrap. And so I was thinking about just getting one of those and turning it into a huge compressor, potential energy compressor storage unit. Here's some of the. This is what we really do a lot of. I do a lot of around here. Tons of wall hooks. Yeah, they can explode. I'd have to set it up and have it angled so I could drain it. No, but I do spurs, but I don't have any to show you. That's kind of one of those things that if I do a set of spurs, they're gone. Takes a minute to get everything warmed up. Aircraft are used made of aluminum and have bands and stays around them for strength and durability. As long as you can keep them protected from the elements, that's not a bad idea. My whole goal would be to build a windmill and then have a shed on the outside of my shop. And like I said, I'd put that tank in there at an angle so as the condensate's built up in the tank, you could drain it out. Stainless steel fittings to avoid dissimilar metal issues. Yeah, you could even run soft tube. That's what I've got running the shop here is I've got soft tube. So yeah. Well, it just depends. I don't exactly know. So I have about 60, 70, I got about 70 gallons of air here. And with this little air hammer, I can get about 44 hits with the air hammer before the compressor kicks on. So I'm sure that I can figure out how many hits, how many strikes I can get. If I doubled up, if I had 100 gallons, I should be able to get 80 hits. So if I could do 500 hits with the power hammer before I had to worry about the compressor kicking on, that'd be fantastic. So I've used these tongs enough this week that they've stretched. They aren't holding my material good. So I'm going to have to adjust them. And this is something that I don't know I've ever filmed this before. So this will be an interesting little thing for you guys. I wish I could figure out how to take part of the live streams and cut them up and make them into videos. So here's a handy tool for you guys. I use this all the time. So this is a shotgun barrel, an old 12 gauge barrel. And you can see that I welded a band on that sucker to strengthen it up. This is a handy tool for doing what I'm about to do here. Stand by. See, I used that piece of shotgun barrel to spring that rain out a little bit. Works out very, very good. And then a little beeswax in the hinge, and that keeps them from sticking. Oh yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's a little better. I never know how to take that. especially when I can't tell who the hell's sending it to me. All right, I'm going to finish up this one hook, and then I'm going to be done for a minute. I might come back later. We'll see what happens. So let me use my little tap tool here. I teach you guys should see me run this treadle hammer. There's our wall hook. All right, everybody. I'm going to take a little break here for a minute. Somebody just come in the shop. Hi, Lacey. We'll see you guys later. Get hot and head always wear safe sequence. If you like the content, just subscribe and go watch some videos. That's the best thing you could do for me. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for all the likes.